Hey guys, welcome back to Double D in the Morning. This is Double D in the Friday Morning, episode 41. The History of Cartoons, Part 32. The History of Chuck Jones. Charles Martin Jones, aka Chuck Jones, was born on September 21st, 1912, to Mabel McQueedy Jones and Charles Adams Jones in Spokane, Washington. Later in life, he moved with his parents and his three siblings to Los Angeles, California, where he would go on to be what considered by many is to be one of the greatest animators of all time, and go on to create such characters as Wile E. Coyote, Pepe Le Pew, and Roadrunner. In this video, I'm going to tell you the story of how a small-town Washington State boy became Mr. Popular and Mr. Hollywood in Mr. Golden Age. Yes, that is right. This video is about the man, the myth, the legend himself, Chuck Jones. After going to this college, Chanel Art Institute, that was a predecessor to Cal Arts, he worked for Leon Schlesinger's studios, working for the Looney Tunes and their Merry Melodies from 33 to 64. And there wasn't enough room in the new Leon Schlesinger building. So from 33 to 64, he worked in this building called Termite Terrace. Although this original building was demolished in the 40s, the nickname continued until 64, until Warner Brothers shut down their animation department. Chuck started out as a lower level employee and worked his way up to a director. He didn't get to direct until 6 years later, until 1939, when he was put with the group of Bob Clampett and Fred Avery, aka Tex Avery. And for the first handful of years he did, since silly symphonies were the popular thing in the 30s, his first handful of cartoons were mimicking of Walt Disney and the Silly Symphonies and that kind of stuff. And in his very first directed short, The Night Watchman, you can see the Disney influence, specifically in his earlier ones, like this one, his very first one. And a plot of this, The Night Watchman, was reused in one where a cat calls itself the Kansas City Kitty. In the plot of this one, the kitten's son, who's not the Night Watchman, but his dad is sick, he takes the place of his dad, and he watches the kitchen and protects it from the mice and keeping it clean and whatnot. I highly recommend it to try to watch this one on YouTube. Of course, when you're done watching this, it is a blast, and it is such a Disney influence you can see if you watch the short. I'm going to backtrack a second. I said 1939 for the first short, but it was 1938. This short was his second short and was released in 1939, Doggone Modern, a predecessor to Tex Avery's House of Tomorrow and that kind of stuff, except it's a pantomime short, except for the barks and yips of two dogs that run into a house of tomorrow and the house terrorizes them, and they get all confused and run away at the end. This is Chuck Jones' first breakout character that lasted from 1939 to 1946, and got the name Sniffles because, as you can see here, in his first short, Naughty But Mice, he had the sniffles and a cold, and the name just stuck. In the 40s and 50s also, he was famous for his parody Looney Tune cartoons. This is Super Rabbit from 1943. A parody of Superman, and Bugs Bunny is the titular role as the Super Rabbit. The plot of this particular parody one is Bugs Bunny as the Super Rabbit tries to take out this crazy Texan rabbit hunter that wants to eliminate all the rabbits in Texas. And the hunter's name is Cottontail Smith. From 1943 to 1945, Warner Brothers did their part in making propaganda cartoons for the Private Snafu, Situation Normal All Fouled Up, of what not to do as an army soldier in the army. They made a total of 27, and Chuck Jones directed 9 of them. Another famous one where he took a Looney Tune character and put him out of their usual element was 1953's Duck Amuck, where it's revealed at the end of the short that it's Bugs Bunny at the drawing board doing all that stuff to Daffy. 1951's Rabbit Fire is Chuck Jones' first in the Hunting Trilogy, which was Rabbit Fire, Rabbit Seasoning, and Duck Rabbit Duck. The first one was in the spring. This is the second in the Rabbit trilogy called Rabbit Seasoning. It was made a year later in 1952, and this one takes place in the fall. This is the final one of his Hunting Trilogy, and it was made in 53, and it was made in the winter. Duck Rabbit Duck. This formula of the Bugs and Daffy rivalry that was set in place by Chuck Jones was used so well, all the other directors used that same formula of them having a rivalry with one another. Not just with the hunting, but with everything. In this example of pop culture parody, which the Looney Tunes were famous for, this is Chuck Jones's Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century. This one was released on July 25th, 1953, and the plot being Daffy Duck is Duck Dodgers, and Porky Pig is the eager young space cadet, go to the unknown planet of Planet X to find the shaving cream atom that was low. And if he didn't find the atom, then there would be no shaving cream. But then Marvin the Martian shows up on Planet X, and a fight ensues, and Duck Dodgers and Marvin Martian, collectively together, but not on purpose, end up blowing up the planet. And at the end he says his famous, "This planet is hereby claimed for the Earth in the name of Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century." One of his most famous one-shot cartoon characters that was one-shot when this was originally released was December 31st, 1955's One Froggy Evening, and was that way for nearly 40 years until it got a successor cartoon to that in the 1990s called Another Froggy Evening. The main plot of this one is a singing frog is found by a construction worker and sings Broadway tunes and show tunes, but only around the person that found the frog. The successor short that was released in 1995 was essentially the exact same thing, just in a more modern twist. He left Warner Brothers to form his own company, Sib Tower 12 Productions. In 1963, MGM contacted him and his buddies Michael Maltese and his former Warner Brothers workers that worked with him to make 12 additional Tom and Jerry shorts. Two other names that he worked with were Les Goldman and Maurice Noble. Sib Tower 12 on December 18, 1966 made his most famous production that was a TV special called How the Grinch Stole Christmas that he co-produced with Dr. Seuss himself, and he directed it by himself. He had previously worked with Dr. Seuss on the Private Snafu shorts for the first 5 of them. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed the story of Chuck Jones. Join me next Friday for my next video. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and hit the notification bell, especially if you want to check out my next video, which is going to be the story of Butch Hartman. And this is next Friday's thumbnail.